welcome to VISTV and the episode that I have very much looked forward to, where Viscardi team members join me for a chat about leadership, motivational leadership. How do we do what we do with a positive attitude and move people and our services in a good, positive way? So welcome all of you. As you all know, VISTV came out this year, 2020, along with Hot Topics, two new platforms that Viscardi is using to enter the world of the insurance industry a little bit differently. And I want to give a shout out to John, who is here. And I'll have you and John talk a little bit about it in a little bit, how and why we came up with VISTV and Hot Topics. I also want to thank Dana, who's here today, who is our host of Hot Topics, and very much pleased to have you all. So I will introduce you all, but first I want to thank the people who have come on VISTV in 2020. As you all know, it's been an absolutely crazy year, a year we do not want to live through again. Hopefully 2021 will be better, but VISTV has definitely been an added positive to my life in running Viscardi and being involved in this TV world now. So I want to thank first Leah Bonvisuto as our first guest. She is the CEO and president of Present Voices. Our next guest was Jane Healy, who is the senior director of DC Regional Claims for Marriott International. We then had Heather Doherty on, who is the president of the Flanders Group, followed by Alexis Gazard, who was the business owner of Wyatt Safety. Bonnie Brook, president of Stevens, was the associate for better care and workers' comp manager for Rich Products. So just saying that blows my mind. And how we did it, we got them on. I know John has lined up already some great people for next year. So I'm looking forward to 2021. But let's get underway. I'd like to introduce some of the members of the Viscardi team who are in leadership roles. Brian Levor is the director of IT, and it is great to have you. Deedra Pearson is our operational director of compliance and utilization review. Dana Pirrello is our nurse case manager, but also has a role of nurse educator and mentor to the nurses at Viscardi. And John Viscardi, executive vice president. So welcome. So John, start us off a little bit and give a little background to the audience that I might have or might not have given over the course of the last few months on how VISTV came about and Hot Topics. And please, everybody, don't be polite. Jump in, chat, unmute yourselves. Let's just have a fun conversation.
Sure. So we started VISTV and Hot Topics very basically because we've noticed that in the workers' comp industry, there's not a lot of video content being produced. And more than that, we started VISTV because we wanted to create a platform where leaders in the workers' compensation industry could share the ways that they motivate and inspire teams, the things that they do that lead to great claims management and medical management, but most importantly, great outcomes within the workers' compensation space. So we specialize in workers' comp. It's all that we do. And employees are the focus of everything that we do from a medical management perspective. You know, employee care, that's the thing that really motivates and drives us. And we're very interested in finding out how are other people who are leaders in the workers' comp space also leading and inspiring to ultimately get those outcomes that we are looking for.
Great. Dana's probably the one on the team that's sitting here today that could talk to the point of how do you motivate an employee? But I'd like to, we could talk about that a little bit. But Brian, if you would talk, to our audience as the head of IT for a company, how do you motivate the team to stay cyber secure? How do you motivate the team to do what's right? How do you, as a leader, because I'm sure when you went into IT, no part of you thought, well, down the line, I might be leading people on the path of, staying safe So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. It's certainly become a larger part of my role as the years have gone on, as cybersecurity has risen in prominence really across the board. So it is, it's fun to make little presentations in a way and to get everybody else in the company to think about IT aspects that they might not have had to think about maybe a decade or so ago.
Well, I know you've been a great help to me, and come on, everybody, you can talk about it.
Yeah, I want to jump in and say that I think that one thing that for the audience, Brian has a penchant and a real talent for creating presentations that are thoroughly enjoyable to participate and watch. And I think that that goes a really long way in effective education practices at Viscardi, where, you know, I think for me personally, being able to bring creativity to what I do at Viscardi is essential to creating things that I'm proud of and that I think are effective, you know, being motivated to bring creativity to my work. And I definitely think, Brian, you do that with your IT presentations. They're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a challenge. It's okay. It is challenging because the topics that, as an IT director, I feel compelled to cover are not always intrinsically the most exciting of topics. They're, not the kind of thing that people intrinsically want to just dig into and say, man, email security is just thrilling to me. You don't hear that a lot of the time. So I try to make it somewhat more relatable by putting, real world examples, pulling stuff from the news, and using, real world examples from people that we know or people in the news, public figures, stuff like that, could sort of bring these fairly mundane IT topics into a more entertaining light.
Yeah. Well, keyword relatable. What were you saying, Dee?
I was saying that it's the way you portray a lot of information. They can be absolutely mundane if you read it in the newspaper or you read it on a website, but then the way you do it is that you put a nice spin on it. And say, well, I can't believe that just happened. Or, there's something funny behind it. So it's it sticks in your head more than me just reading it on a website or in a newspaper.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of the presentations are interactive, which is very engaging.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say, Joan has created something of a company culture where games are promoted. So
very true.
It starts from the top, right? As they say, they start from the top, and her culture that she's created here is very permissive of taking celebrities and making things into games that might otherwise be somewhat boring. So,
I think that's true, Brian. I think motivation. One, you have to, as a leader, learn that people have different techniques in learning, and learning is only one aspect. You can be auditory, you can be visual, you can be both, but doing the task is much different than doing a task positively, doing a task that promotes your enjoyment of work. And more so, myself as a leader, I want you all to grow. I'm not concerned so much as you're just doing the work right. I want the work to be done right. Dana, I'd like to talk a little bit about, I don't think when you came into Viscardi, you anticipated being the host of a platform of hot topics, something that is new in the industry. Yes, bravo. We do see people talk about key points, but tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like, and how do you think people are accepting it, looking at it?
Well, it's been a great experience for me. I feel like it's such a brief overview of what's happened that month or that week, and it's so easy to listen to. It's such quick facts that is coming out. And I feel like it's very easy for everyone just to kind of put it on, listen to it, and kind of do other things while listening to it. So I think, it's like a little punch of information of things happening over the course of the month, the week.
Dee, I'd like to talk to you a little bit because using the word mundane, and I'm not referring to Dee at all, Dee is far from mundane. You work in an area of Viscardi compliance that can be mundane. It is data driven. It is legal. There are a lot of rules and regs associated with it, a lot of forms, form completion. How do you continue to maintain your leadership to your team and motivate your team to produce, this product, to produce a really good product?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that my main goal is that the person gets the treatment that they want. So that's the ultimate goal, especially when it comes to compliance. We're looking at treatments, making sure that they're compliant with the medical treatment guidelines, and we want them their ultimate goal is to get back to work. So we don't want to, stop for any reason their treatment or delay their treatment. So I think that's a motivation for me. And I motivate my team because I try to motivate my team, I should say, by just, letting them know that the faster we're able to have the treatment approved or with the treatment that they have to go through, then the faster the claimant can get their treatment done, and then they can go back to work and, continue to provide for their family, because at the end of the day, it's their job. That's how they provide for their family. And I like the fact that, especially at Viscardi, we have those 2 time frames in the day where we have a breather, that 10-minute breather. So it takes away from the mundaneness of the medical treatment guidelines and compliance. It breaks it up in your head, and you have that 10-minute timeline to just breathe, relax. Everything's okay. You're outside of the work world right now, and then you can go back into it. It's a nice break for everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. In the course of interviewing numerous very motivational, intelligent leaders, everyone was trying this year with COVID to find ways to break the monotony, and to still keep your team motivated. So it's really important. I think we've built a culture that people do feel they come first. And I think that's very important in a leader. I think as a leader, we all need to exhibit to others, they come first. They have to come first. And if we care about them, they'll care about themselves. So yeah, everybody needs to take a break and breathe and move on. But how do we move forward in 2021? So this is interesting. We're working remotely. We're going to continue to work remotely at Viscardi for some time. Vaccines are on the horizon, but I do feel we as a team will remain remote for some time. How do you remotely inspire the people you work with? Anybody have any tips or thoughts? And how do you, in the industry of insurance, where everything is mandated by a rule and regulation, stay with rules, because they're kind of, don't they seem like opposite ends of the spectrum? You have rules and regulations and motivation. You have rules and regulations and relax, but do a really good job. Give me your opinions on that, everybody.
I think
Go ahead, Dee.
Go ahead, Dina. It's okay.
Okay. I think it's good to do frequent check-ins. I check in a lot with the nurses just to make sure that things are going well. If they have any questions, I always want to be very approachable to anyone at Viscardi and my team. That goes a long way. And just always showing support, whether it's via Zoom or a phone call. I think that goes a long way with just, getting through this remote working time.
I think it's also a subjective thing, because I personally like face-to-face, but then if it's going to take a quick phone call, then I don't mind the phone call either. So I think it just depends on what spectrum and who the individual is.
Yeah, I find it oftentimes it's just my style, hard to motivate by emails. Yet people say it's motivational, but it's hard when you use keyword subjective. Subjectively, I can read an email one way and think, oh, I put 2 exclamation points. They're on the other side and they know I'm really happy with them. But yet you put 1 exclamation point that maybe is on an email that's not so motivational, and it comes back with, what were you trying to say to me? Are you annoyed? Are you pissed off? So I think it's interesting.
It's funny because when I first started, so how many years ago, I remember I would get an email from you, and it was like, okay, I'm getting an email from Joan, and it would say, "Good day, Deedra." And then it slowly changed to "Good day, Dee." And then now I can sort of assess how you are from your email. So it's always
Oh, that's danger zone.
if it says "Hi, Dee," then it's like, we're okay. We're okay.
The Ouija board of email.
Yes, exactly. But if it says "Good day, Deedra," then it's like laying down the law. We've got to do something about this.
That is so interesting. And it's very interesting that you say that, because there are different people. Viscardi has a much bigger team than those of us sitting here. And depending on who that person is, there's definitely a different way of communicating with everybody. I think to be professional, you have to. I'm a fanatic, and I remember when we had a talk with Leah Bonvisuto from Present Voices, talking about the change in culture, that we were moving from good day, good afternoon, to hi. And I pushed back on that for about 6 months. I said, absolutely not. I was raised a certain way. I would never say hi to an individual I haven't met visually in person. And it really took me back to see how many people, within weeks of her telling us this, were just saying hi, hi, hi. And it still takes me back that, you could be in a conversation with the CEO of a very large self-insured who writes, "Hi, Joan," and I think, oh, wow, do I go back, "Hi, so-and-so"? I really want to say good afternoon and put my comma and my closure and everything be right. Yeah, it's a change in environment for sure. Does it make it better? Does it change the professionalism, do you think, of society by doing that?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
I think yes and no. I think it depends on the situation.
But I mean, what is professionalism in this sense? I think like
Right.
professionalism.
Great question.
Yeah, to me is getting is doing your work with the highest possible quality, and being sort of attendant to your scruples and your expertise, and trying to deliver the best possible product that you can, or service that you can. So like linguistic conventions are maybe a part of that to some degree, but I think there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat.
Yeah, but I also think that it depends on the person assessing it.
For
Because
sure.
As
That's a good
someone
point.
like Joan who says, okay, this person's just saying hi to me, and I'm so used to saying good day, good morning, good afternoon, then it kind of takes you back like, well, are they not professional? And I don't know if that's how you're thinking, Joan. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but there could be individuals like that say, oh, well, they're just saying hi, so they must be so lax.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, agreed.
What's super interesting is when you see like let's say I'll write like, "Dear Brian," and then the next email exchange is, "Hi, Brian," and then the next email exchange is, "Hey, Brian," and the next email exchange is, "Hey," and then the next email exchange is none at all. It's like that happens all the time. And it's such an interesting phenomenon in work relationships and work discourse or conversation over email.
Well, as you were saying a moment ago, John, I think a lot of it, for me at least, comes down to competence. So the first thing that I want to know about is the competence of the person. Are we talking about work that's well done? Are we working well together? Are we, doing our job well and correctly and on time? Once that is established, I think the rules can be sort of loosened up a little bit. But I was also thinking about the timing of it, and where an email chain about one topic might start off more formal, "Hi, everybody. Good morning, everybody." And then if it becomes a rapid fire succession of several emails about a quick topic, then there's no reading it up. It's just, okay, I did this. Can you check this out? Let me know about XYZ. And that formality kind of drops as the speed increases. It's almost like a function of speed. But I've taken to, instead of good afternoon, to saying afternoon.
Viscardi is all about speed, Brian. All about speed and efficiency. Let's keep that speed going.
Right. So I think saying afternoon is sort of implied that I want you to have a good afternoon, right? I'm not wishing you a bad afternoon.
Can I pivot us a little bit?
Definitely.
Okay. I'm very curious how each of us approaches and overcomes challenges. And I think we all have challenges in different ways. Every square here has challenges in different ways. So maybe, I don't know, who wants to start us off? I think maybe Dana.
I always try to start out with a positive mindset. Like maybe, if it's a team member within Viscardi, maybe they're just having maybe an off moment, and, just starting whether it's a conversation with someone or a phone call, starting off very positively, and just kind of working out, open communication, trying to figure out where the challenge is, if there was a misstep, if there was something, that just didn't get done timely. I think just open communication and a positive attitude goes a really long way.
So kind of like giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, like just hearing everything before jumping to a conclusion, or just being open-minded of what could have happened on the other end.
And what about like in your work with adjusters, claim owners, HR reps and managers at insureds? Is it a different sort of technique there than with like Viscardi team members, or the same?
It's pretty much the same. Still positive attitude going into it and throughout the conversation, and remaining open-minded, hearing all the information, all the facts, and then, move on from there. So like a step-by-step kind of approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would agree with Dana on that, especially with outside, whether it's a client, and a client could be like John is saying, could be a claimant, could be injured worker, could be a diagnostic testing vendor, could be a provider's office. It could be anybody. I think staying positive, number one. And I also find with myself, it requires a lot of listening. Listening is key. As much as everybody and anybody in the audience who's watching, who knows me, knows I love to talk. I love to chat. But it's key to take a breath and listen. And also assess what's not being said. Sometimes the things that aren't being said are what's more important. So going back to what we were saying before, John, with visually seeing people is really important too, when you want to assess their understanding of what the conversation's about.
Have you started doing more face-to-face, virtual face-to-face meetings with other clients, or sort of players within the day-to-day course of our work?
Now that's an interesting thought. Yes and no. So yes, with COVID, there is more face-to-face interaction, which is great. It's actually added a layer of success, I think, to the relationships that we can. Zoom is now the way to communicate. And it's not awkward to say to somebody, it would have been awkward in the past to say, hey, do you want to FaceTime? And we'll have that meeting at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Half of my partners' clients would have said, absolutely not. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
But I think now it's a common means of communication, and a really good one.
One of the big things that I am grateful for in terms of technological innovation is the ability that it gives us to communicate effectively. I think that or to continue communicating in the absence of being in front of one another. I think that like all the things we're talking about, from Vera, our claims management system, to shared docs, to Zoom, none of this would be possible. It wouldn't be possible for us to communicate effectively, work, and be productive without being physically close to one another without these technologies. So I think the communication pathways and platforms that are made available through technology, or digital technology in particular, is incredible.
Well, to add on to that, we developed Viscardi Connect this year in response to a shift to working remotely, and found that a lot of the insureds that we work with, that we manage claims for, really required assistance internally. Their internal infrastructure was not set up to move into this world of remote work, whether it was cybersecurity, whether it was just relaying information from the top down, or bottom up. So I think we as a company really, we were set up for success a long time before the pandemic, which is really, you know, a big thanks to the team who works to do that. But yeah.
Well, technology that it was new to me when I signed on to Viscardi, which I think we've come a long way with, and I think we could be really proud of is along the lines of shared documents, but the auto generation of those documents and the ability to create multi-page documents with specific claim information at the touch of a button. That's, you know, a technology that I'm pretty proud of in my work.
Not to mention, Brian, the data analytics that come out of those documents that we have created that are generated, that we can parse out that data, you know, from the biggest picture, umbrella picture, to the smallest minute detail, and provide back to clients any data that they want regarding management of a claim. And, you know, from the color eyes someone has, don't panic now, Brian, from the color eyes somebody has, you know, to their possible comorbidities, to the impact that their prior history would have on an injury moving forward. We really have come a long way in our ability to take that data and use it.
In terms of data quality, right, the automation of creating those documents makes it then easier to use down the line in terms of analyzing them. So,
Brian, why do you complain about those 1,000 lines of code for a new document?
Well, sometimes it is a pile of work, and we haven't yet created the ability to automatically create the auto generator. So there's still some manual work involved in putting those together behind the scenes. But once they're done, they allow our staff to generate, you know, 1,000 fields out at the click of one button.
I'd like you to think about one keyword that would help describe you as a leader. What word would you use? Okay.
One word.
One, yeah, I know it's tough.
One, Brian, just one.
It's
Not one.
tough. It's tough.
Can I go over a sentence?
No, and you always want to add more than one. Think of one. So my word as a leader would be generous.
My word would be passionate.
I have two. Mine would be patient and empathic.
I would go with exemplar. I like to lead by example and sort of show what I'd expect and how we do things.
For myself, it would be advocate, particularly when looking to support those that I lead.
Well, I think if we took every one of those words and put them together, it would make a great formula for a motivational leader. And I really thank you all for being who you are, because without being who you are, you cannot be the leaders that you are at Viscardi. And it is a true pleasure to work with every one of you.
Likewise.
So thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.